Welcome back to the 987.2 Porsche Cayman R, one of my favorite analog Porsches that can still be had for a somewhat reasonable price. I've driven these cars before, but this one has been modified by the owner Andy for track work, which is great because the Cayman R was the most lightweight, focused, and powerful version of the 987 generation. Full list of mods will be in the video description, but we have a sole performance valved exhaust, Giro Disk slotted rotors with some track Ferodo DS1.11 pads, although I think he's running the DS2500s right now for the street. We've got some suspension work, including GT3 lower control arms, Tarett end links and front and rear sway bars. And for power mods, we have an IPD plenum, 82mm throttle body, and an EvoMS tune. We've also got some Numeric shifter cables, upgraded Wevo transmission mounts, and engine mount inserts. This car comes with the 9A1 generation flat 6 engine. It's a 3.4 liter naturally aspirated, making 330 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. And what the Cayman R gives us is essentially stiffer spring rates and uprated dampers, an LSD as standard, which was something that was optional in the lower trim models of the Cayman, 121 pound maximum weight savings, which includes these aluminum doors, lighter seats, lighter wheels, and a freer flowing exhaust, which gives us an extra 10 horsepower compared to the Cayman S. This car should weigh under 3,000 pounds. Market value last I checked, which was last year, was somewhere in the $60,000 range. You can get a 981 Cayman S for probably around the same money, but if you want that old school analog feel with the hydraulic steering, is the Cayman R still worth it? This particular car has pretty high mileage, 113,000. Let's see how this car has held up over the years. So this car does not come with the optional sport chrono, so there's a blank button here where there otherwise would be a sport button that heightens the throttle response. So even with the numeric shifter cables, the shifter is not my favorite. The throws are a bit long, there's a little bit of slop in the linkage. The facelifted 987.2 has this nicer center console with the buttons with the paint that no longer fade like the 987.1, which I used to own 2 of. Overall, it's a slightly nicer car compared to the .1. Oh yeah, so satisfying to rev this engine out to around 7,400 RPM. And because it's the updated 9A1 engine, it no longer has that pesky IMS bearing. You no longer have to worry about bore score. This is a reliable powertrain for the most part. And right away, first thing I'm noticing is this hydraulic steering rack. Really good feedback. I just hopped out of a 992.1 GT3, all stock, with Goodyear Eagle F1 tires, and that had this weird dead spot where the steering rack is super light just off center. That same thing doesn't happen here. This just gives you the purity of a hydraulic rack. And the car feels light, just under 3,000 pounds. Very nice and firm brake pedal. The car feels agile in these lower speed corners. In fact, I think it's under 2,900 pounds, because a regular Cayman S is already under 3,000. Very firm brake pedal, a characteristic of all performance-focused Porsches. Just gives you that confidence and the modulation that you want when braking hard. This is just a feel-good car. It's not the fastest thing nowadays. I mean, this design is over 15 years old, but you just get so much feedback from the car, from the steering, from the suspension, the chassis. It doesn't feel like the most rigid chassis in the world, especially compared to a modern 718, but it communicates, it has personality, it has an analog feel. You have have to heel toe your own downshifts. I do wish the throttle was a little bit more sensitive. It just feels a tad dull. I keep under blipping the downshift. That's where that Sport Chrono would pay dividends. Just that glorious flat six sound. This is not the highest revving engine, but it makes a really pure, satisfying sound. It's not very high pitched like a GT3 motor, but still one of the greatest sounding cars for the money, I think. And you can really get into a groove with this car because it has that mid-engine balance. Even though it has technically inferior strut, front and rear suspension, at canyon speeds, it doesn't really matter. This car corners flat. It turns so well. Excellent turn in, and you can feel the limit of grip through the steering wheel. You don't have to rely on other cues to figure out when the car is going to understeer or oversteer. The chassis is just so communicative. The engine builds power very progressively, very direct throttle response. Again, I just wish that it was a little bit more sensitive. Shifter though, not the best. Even with the numeric shifter cables, it's just got kind of this loosey-goosey feel to it. Not as mechanical as I'd like. A little bit of extra lateral slop here, as you can see, even in gear. I do think the later generations of Cayman and Boxster did improve upon the shift feel. Sketchy. But being in this Cayman R makes me feel right at home. I've driven so many 987s on the channel, and I've owned two. It's just such a natural car to drive. Maybe not great on track at the limit. Strut suspension does have its limitations after all, but out here, there's very little to complain about. It handles, it accelerates well, it stops. It's a very well-balanced car. There's no aspect of this car that feels like a major strength or weakness. It's definitely like a 7 or 8 out of 10 in basically every regard. A GT3 engine is far more characterful, powerful, sounds better. A Lotus Elise has much more steering feel. I mean, I can name a bunch of cars that are better than this Cayman R in one or two aspects, but can I name a car, especially for the price, that is just more enjoyable to drive overall and more well-rounded? You can actually daily drive a Cayman R, I think, much more easily than something like a Lotus Elise, but of course you can still have a ton of fun with it on a back road. It's not a numbers car in 2025, it's a feel-good car. And boy, does it feel good. Well-rounded is definitely how I would sum up the Cayman R and just the 987.2 generation in general. I say .2 because the .1 has some fatal mechanical flaws, as I've covered too many times on my channel at this point. When the .1 works, it's great, but when it doesn't work, you're gonna have a hefty invoice from your Porsche dealership or indie mechanic. All right, another very enjoyable drive in a 987.2 Porsche Cayman R. I don't know the exact production figures, but they didn't make a whole lot of these, so these do tend to hold their value quite well, much better than the lesser trims. And the owner, Andy, bought these right before they shot up in price during COVID, so props to him. Let me know what you think about the 987 generation, and specifically the Cayman R. Do you think it's worth its price tag? $60,000 for a really clean example, Are there better, more well-rounded sports cars out there for the money? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you very soon.